I've got to echo a couple of things. I am stoked to be here. The energy that I saw last night that was in this room, the information that Tim's given me. I've been wearing my MASH shirt for the last 3 weeks just in preparation. But yeah, I am Bill Shea. I work for Accenture. I am a senior manager over there, and I'll give you a little bit of my background, and then we'll talk about what it's really like to work in a consulting firm, because there are good things and there are bad things. And I want everybody to go in eyes wide open. But before I do the introduction, one other thing, Tim just went through some critical pieces about interviewing and how to manage it, what to look for, what skills to have, how to prepare. All of those things are exactly what we look for. I mean, that is how our recruiters are trained, that is how our HR folks manage. Be prepared, because otherwise you'll never make it past, because very similar to the competition in this room, we only look for A players. That's all we look for, and if you're not an A player, you're probably not going to be with us. So, now I got through, but that's different. All right, so Bill Shea, senior manager with Accenture. I've been with Accenture for 5 years. I've been in industry for about 15 years. And when I was in college, I started out as an entrepreneur. I owned a small IT company in college. Back when the web was really, people thought it and called it the web, not every day. So we built websites out of Michigan State University, which is where I got my undergrad degree as a chemical engineer. And then went on later in life to get my MBA from the University of Michigan, which is better than Northwestern, just so we're all clear. And now I sit in Accenture in our digital practice. So I'm a technologist at heart. Engineering background, business, beyond that, but I like solving problems with technology. That's what I do. Just so that I get a sense in here, how many of you actually have an interest, not say you'll go into it, either with a large or small firm in consulting? Okay, so pretty good, okay. Same set of hands, how many would consider yourself a business type person? Business process, supply chain, so the rest of you are probably a little bit more on the technology side. Okay. It's usually the way consulting is separated. We have, and when I go to the next slide here, we really are separated by business and technology. And one of the big dreams in here, I hope somebody follows up with me, is to get into a management consulting type field. We've got a huge practice, and we're one of the top ones. Okay, we're about 250,000 people right now. We are a large firm. About 60,000 people are in the US, so that gives you a sense of how large we are globally, right? Most of our resources are actually not here in the US. We're split right now about 70% technology and 30% management consulting, so that would be your business processes, supply chain, all that kind of stuff. We are traditionally a technology firm. That's where we grew up. We spun off of Anderson Consulting, or no, it would have been Arthur Anderson back in '99. I was actually with the firm then. I was here and then went out in industry and then came back. But right before Enron, which kind of put them out of business, we had spun off into Accenture. And we took the technology arm and moved ourselves out. We work with 96 of the top Fortune 100 companies. So if you think about that, we work with the big boys. We work with the big brands. We spend all of our time in big industry. Very different from those of you who might be looking, starting in entrepreneurship and other things like that, or even a single consultancy, right? You don't typically find your way into those larger brands. And most of those brands, because we build everything on relationships, because consulting is a trust environment, they have been our clients for a minimum of 5 years, most of them 10 years or longer. Let me just ask a question. I'll just throw it out there. Does anybody really know what a big consulting firm does? Excel. Tons of TPS reports. We can charge a lot for TPS reports. We also Excel, yeah. Just to set a foundation, right? We do about anything that is asked of us. And that's not to say that we will just go out and do something, but we will do about anything that we feel will provide value to our clients. And, it is, when I came into consulting, the first thing they did is they threw me in a chair and said, code this C++ program, and I never coded before and figured it out. But it was of value to the customer, and so I knew it was the right thing to do. But what we do as a firm is we develop assets, points of view, benchmarks, and other things to make companies better. That's really all we do, just across the board. And which goes into our experience, capability, extended research. if you're thinking about going into consulting and you're evaluating the firms, as Tim was talking about earlier, look for the firms that have the experience, because those are the firms in today's market that are going to survive and excel. Right now, I think it is probably the best time, if you're interested and it's a good fit, to enter consulting. And here's why. The last few years have taught us that the markets and conditions for business are incredibly volatile, uncertain, and changes everywhere, right? We had the financial meltdowns. We have technology that's going at a rate that is unparalleled. We have Facebook that is setting everyone's expectations as a push-type technology. Everybody wants it now. I bet every one of you checks your phone 3 times while I'm up here talking, just to see what's happening, right? But technology is creating tremendous disruption for large enterprises, those 96 out of the top Fortune 100s. They need points of view. They need help. They need best practices. And most enterprises are not set up to react that quick to change, so they call in consultants. It's kind of cool to think that while we're in here in this room, we're taking 4 systems live today. I mean, that's the number of systems that we touch. And you guys probably interact with one of our systems almost every single day. We've been ingrained in your life. Almost all consulting firms are organized the same way, okay? Whether you take IBM, PwC, any of those guys, right? We are set up by industry segments. So we're going to be like by high tech or financial services or products or resources. Resources would be like your oil and gas and some of those other things. And then we're all going to cross each one of those with technology. So when you start thinking about your career in consulting, start thinking about what you know, what your passions are, right? And where do you want to go? And come with that point of view. And before you even enter the market, think about if my passion is in hospitality, right? And I want to be in hospitality and I want to, get into consulting because I want to work with some of the larger brands or even some of the smaller brands. Take a look at the consulting firms that actually specialize in that area or have a strength of position in that area or are posting jobs on their website. All of our jobs are posted on our website if you ever want to go see and take a look at them. So that you can align yourself with the strengths similar to the way Tim was outlining it. It's going to make you much more relevant in our initial conversation. It's going to help us have a much better dialogue about where you want to be. And let's face it, you're interviewing for a consulting firm. If you come in and say, I don't know, not bad to say, but it's going to be difficult for us to get immediate value for our clients. Right? And we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of consulting later on from that point. But I think that it is so critical to know your strengths and what you're really passionate about, because that's where you're going to excel. And in consulting, specifically the large firms, you're going to end up working with and competing with all the A players, right? So if you're going to your job every day like, oh my gosh, I don't even like this. Right? This is awful. Or I really wish that I could make it into a different client base or a different customer group. Spencer here is in the same group as me, and at the end of the year, we're going to be compared against, and he loves what he's doing. I'm going to say 75% chance he's going to win. Right? He's going to end up with a better rating because he's going to end up driving more value for the clients. So I think it's critical that as you go into the industry, make sure you're aligned and you understand where you want to go. Some of the traits we're looking for, and this is exactly what we take to our on-campus recruiting, okay? Which I'm also a part of. These are the traits that we're going to test you on, we're going to make you uncomfortable with, and when you go through your case interviews, these are the things we're looking for. So number 1, problem solving. And, it's not necessarily that you come up with the right solution in the interview. I'm watching for your thought process. I'm watching for your critical thinking process, right? Because there's a defined process that most individuals go through as they survey the environment, as they take in information, as they try to connect different analogies to come up with a, relevant solution, right? So it's critical that if you're considering consulting that you've got that skill. Teamwork. I said that 60,000 of us are here in the U.S., but that means about 190,000, or my math there, are not here. My daily interaction usually starts with India, moves to Argentina, ends up here somewhere in the Midwest, and then the rest of my team's out on the West Coast. So you've got to be able to run and work within a team, all roll in the same place, all go in the same area, but you may not even meet them, right? In fact, one example is Comerica Bank local to here? Anybody familiar with them? Okay. They're a regional bank. They were one of my first clients coming back, and we repurposed their website. So we rebuilt it on a new platform, and I didn't meet a single person from my team. And it was just ranked the 18th most attractive website in financial services. So that was kind of exciting. But the whole point is, I mean, you've got to be able to work in a team, and it's more challenging when you don't actually get to see and have that face-to-face relationship. And then humility, you know, which echoes a couple other points that were stated earlier. As a consultant, regardless of who you work for, you've got to remember that your number one priority is your client. It's not your opinion necessarily that matters, right? It's not about you. You will get further in your career in consulting if you focus on the needs of your clients, their success, and the people around you. You know, at no point do I ever need my name on any deliverable. How to be successful. So we talked about some of the traits, right? But how do you be successful in a company with 250,000 people, right? That you're all going to be compared against, right? Not scary, but you will be. There are, you know, the one in the middle there I'll start with is building value for your clients. You've got to do that. You've got to deliver on that every day. But the brand. How many in here have already started their own personal brand and know exactly what it is? Okay, a few people. Guy in the back there, gentleman in the back. Is it consistent across all your online environments? Your Facebook, your LinkedIn? Do you stay consistent with it every day? Some of us do, some of us don't. But if you get into consulting, what you're really doing is you're putting yourself out there. So at any given time, you have to have consistency within your brand. And as Tim said, you know, we'll check you on Facebook before we hire you. We will. And we don't need access, right? We'll find out. So it's, well, I mean, we'll sidetrack real quick. One of my other clients is a large telecommunications company, and I oversee all of their social listening. So if you tweet about them, if you talk about them, you may be contacted by a customer service rep because we're watching it. And everything's traceable. But bottom line is keeping consistency in your brand, keeping yourself aware of what your brand is. Like for me, I am very simply a solution looking for a problem. I'm not an expert, I'm a generalist, right? But if you give me something challenging, and everybody around me knows it, throw it to Bill, difficult situation, he'll figure it out. Or he'll bring in the right people to figure it out. Your network is critical in a large organization, and it is incredibly critical in consulting. I don't know everything. In fact, I don't know much. But I have a very core team, and I was talking to Chandler about this. We were talking about, you know, how do you manage and how do you make sure that you can deliver and get things done. And the key is that you have a strong network of key players that you know you can go to, that you can work with, that have certain strengths. And when a question comes up that I don't know the answer to, I can go to them. And the way speed of our culture is right now, within 30 minutes, I'm probably going to have an answer, right? So that network is key. That network will also help you escalate your career. Mentoring and coaching is another way that is key to your consulting career. I have a strong core of mentors. In fact, one of them sitting over there, Tim, that I go to often, right? Not scared to ask dumb questions because I just don't know, right? So it's key that you have a strong mentorship. And within the firm itself, whenever you're hired, you get assigned a mentor. And the good thing is if that mentor's no good, because a lot of us are technologists and we don't really know people, you can switch it. So it's great. Keep learning. Always keep learning, because as soon as you stop learning, you become irrelevant to your clients, right? Which is a little bit different from some of the other enterprise companies out there. You can kind of wedge your way into a nice position and coast for a while. Consulting, you can't. Hard work, I can't, probably not on the fingers I have, count the number of all-nighters I've had taking a system live. And some of those all-nighters are actually followed by a secondary all-nighter. So it's fun, but hard work is critical. And then the shamrock up there is just a little bit of luck, right? You've got to find the right opportunities. You've got to get the right teamwork around you. You've got to have a little bit of that in order to be successful as a consultant. All right, we're going to switch to a day in the life. So this is a little bit longer video, but I think it's good because it's going to show you the different levels in Accenture. So it'll start with, I think, an analyst, a consultant. And the way we go is like entry level to analyst, goes up consultant, manager, senior manager, and then partner. But it kind of goes through their different stages of life, and it's very positive, right? It talks about you have a lot of time and other things. We'll talk about the plus and minus in a minute. But it does give a good perspective of how dynamic the workforce is and how awesome the people are. All of those people seem to have, hobbies outside of work, right? You'll find that when you get on a project, especially the larger projects, you have a lot of different individuals who will band together based on their interests, right? I've been on projects where there were softball teams on Tuesday nights, right? We've had groups that go out for, runs or even, there's been people who practice instruments, right? Not my gig, but, there's so many different interests, and the people that we work with are so passionate both inside and outside of work. Some of the items on a day-to-day basis that were a common theme in there, right? So day usually starts out pretty early. We typically start because most of the work nowadays is done offshore with that whole India offshore team to catch up on what work was done. Because most consulting firms now, it's a 24-hour operation. Think of it as, GM, anybody else building cars, those assembly lines are going 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. No different from what we do. It's just the production is, offshore, and we're getting caught up on how far they've made it, what issues they found, all those types of things. So we're mitigating a lot of issues and risks every single day. For me specifically, my day in the life is I have 3 clients right now. The high-tech company, communications company. I have another company that is Yellow Pages, which is, does Yellow Pages distribute their phone books around here? So that company still exists. And we are working with them on a nice digital strategy to get them away from their books, right? And then Usher's New Look Foundation. And just to give you a sense of the difference in work that I do, right? One of them is social listening, so it's a technology based solely on social, customer care, all that kind of stuff. Another is digital strategy, right? So you've got to bring thought leadership around digital strategy and how you position that company in the market. And then Usher's thing, which is a complete nonprofit, probably the most rewarding piece of work that I get to do, because some of my time there is actually spent with the youth. So just a real quick overview. I mean, and this is all because Accenture decided to invest. We do a lot of things besides just generate money. We give a lot back. One thing that I feel blessed to be part of is I am actually the program lead for Usher's New Look, and it did allow me to meet Usher, and I have my picture with him. If anybody, he did call me to sub on The Voice, but what we get to do though, and last Friday I got to do is I got in a room with about 40 or 50, I'll just say disadvantaged youth who are part of the program, and we got to actually sit and teach critical thinking and some of the other things. That was my Friday, and that was an exciting day. That was a lot of fun. And we do that pretty regularly within the firm. But, along with that, much of my day, if you decide to go into consulting and you be up front with it, is spread across the country. Right? I don't go to the same office every day. Very rarely do I go to the same office for 4 days in a row. But some of the pros and cons of entering consulting is, number one, we have the best people. Absolutely, bar none, the best people are in consulting. Anybody, maybe entrepreneurs, but consulting really attracts, the A game, and I'll go through some of the cons on why it does. But the fact that I get to work with such great people day in and day out, and I get to, one of the guys on my team climbed Mount Kilimanjaro a couple of months ago. He took a month off and went over there and just did it, right? So they're not just hard workers. They've got real passions outside of work. Your work day changes, or your work changes daily. Sometimes, you may not always get the role you want to start, but typically it's a short-term role, you can find something else to do, right? Because as Spencer, I think we were talking yesterday, you get thrown into something, you don't always know what it is, right? You don't always know what your deliverables are. So you figure it out. You may like it, you may not. You may decide to stay with that client. You may get to move quickly after. Some gigs are 2 months. Some of them are 2 years. So you've got the flexibility to do that. In consulting, you get an accelerated career, and I think that is key for folks in your position. When you start out your career, right, you have tons of choices, unbelievable choices. But consulting tends to be a bit of an accelerated push for you, right? You're justifying your worth every day. You're in new technologies. You're bringing points of view. You're understanding best practices and benchmarks, which will expose you to a breadth of information way beyond working in a single enterprise. right? And you get to see multiple enterprises. So I think it accelerates your career. We typically think of somebody with 2 years of experience at Accenture is relevant to about a 5-year normal corporate work experience. Teamwork, huge teamwork. You get a great network. My network right now has built to not only within the firm, but also, my daily interactions are either SVP level folks or C-level folks, C-suite folks on a daily basis. So CMOs, chief marketing officers, chief technology officers, CIOs, and when I'm lucky, CEOs. And these aren't small firms, right? So you get to build an extensive network, which we obviously use LinkedIn very critically to make sure we stay connected, right? And outstanding opportunities. The number of opportunities that consulting has given me far outweigh many of the opportunities that I had when I was in corporate life. And it's not just meeting Usher, but the opportunities to grow professionally, to grow personally. The opportunities are there, and they are abundant. Some of the negatives, though, if you decide you want to go into consulting, I think it's important you all go in eyes wide open, right? Because it's not an easy life. And some of you are experiencing it now by your travels. Everybody tells me you're lucky you get to travel. That was fun the first 3 months. But really, travel can wear on you, and it affects you. It's not even just getting up and going, because the whole concept of traveling isn't bad, unless you don't like planes like me. But the struggles that you end up with is it really alters your personal life, right? I can't join the men's soccer league anymore on Tuesday nights because every week I'm either in LA, Atlanta, or somewhere else. You've got to go in with that idea that you're not going to be able to do everything that you may do if you had a local gig. Some of the other things is work-life balance. Because of the size of most of the large consulting firms and the fact that we go 24/7, you've got to be able to unplug, because otherwise the firm will consume you, and any of them will, right? So you've got to be very aware of that. Does anybody know what up or out process is? What is it? Yeah, that is part of it. The other part is, when you go into consulting, we have a career track for you in mind. That by 3 years you're going to be here, 5 years you're going to be here, 7 years you're going to be here, 9 years you're going to be here. If you're not on that track, we're probably going to have some difficult conversations about staying in and raising up or moving out. And that really is, it comes down to the way we create value, right? I mean, we have to have the best of the best. Otherwise, we can't create the value that we need to for our clients. We can't charge the rates that we end up charging. I mean, sitting in front of a CTO trying to explain why I'm worth $800 an hour is not an easy discussion, right? But you have to be able to have those conversations, and that's why we push for the best. It is a high-stress environment, and you also can feel very disconnected, right? You really end up with your project family, right, which is the folks you spend Monday through Thursday with, the folks that you go play softball with, or go for a run with, or go through hell and back in an implementation with. But outside of that, you lose a lot of that continuity that I work for Accenture, right? I lose that home office type feeling. I lose that camaraderie with local folks. So you've got to be very proactive and make sure that you stay connected, right? You stay involved. You get involved in our local events. We have tons of mentoring things and other things, but don't skip them. Make them part of your life. What kind of questions do we have? I'm a generalist because I entered the consulting game late, right? I thought when I came out of college I was going to be an engineer, right? And then I got out and I'm like, engineering's not that much fun. I want to be a business guy, right? But I've always had this foot in technology, so it works for me. But there are folks, and they're usually part of my network, who are so strong in what they do. And if I didn't have them, the whole network breaks, right? So it's got to be what you like. If you find your passion, if you find what you really love, and it might be HTML5, CSS3, pushing mobile, whatever, right? You could become the best you could be in that space, and you'd be there forever as long as you continue to learn and evolve. But it depends what you want. So everybody comes into the Big Five, specifically Accenture, and says, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I'm going to learn what I need to learn, and then I'm out. Most of the people I know have been there in excess of 5. We work very hard on keeping people connected and engagement, which is why we all have mentors, which is why we do so many extracurricular activities. It is so hard for us to lose good people. So we don't typically, I joke a little bit about the up or out We typically don't want you. I mean, we don't want you to leave, right? People get offered nice positions outside of the firm. I think to answer your question directly, I think it's in the high teens on a regular basis. Maybe not first year, but after second year, they'll decide, you know what, it's not for me. Or the other thing is life events really change your perspective, right? Big thing for me, I have 3 kids and a wife. And I'm not holding that up. But a lot of folks, when they get to that position, make the choice of either they try and find a flexible work environment within Accenture that allows them to work out of their house and stay home, kind of like the first gig I was talking about, right? I stayed home the whole time. I worked with my team who was all, or they find something local. That's usually what pushes them out. Yeah. Great. It's my biggest weakness. I don't do it well. You know, the phone is always on me. You know, but I think that what you have to do is, you know, setting expectations with your team is critical, right? And your client. Right? I will say that most of the traffic I get post 5 o'clock, or let's say post 6 o'clock, doesn't come from the client, right? Because if you think about it, in a consulting world, you have 2 masters, right? You have your client, whoa, and then you've got the firm, right? So the firm is going to ask for TPS reports and all that fun stuff, and mentor people in time and energy, which is awesome, which usually comes after 5, right? And then the other part's the client. So as long as you can get all your client stuff done and kind of set expectations with the folks around you within the practice or the firm, you can disconnect. But you have to. It has to be a priority. Personal, I have found that I need to outsource. I outsource a lot of things in my own personal life. Like simple things that I, you know, used to just throw the headphones on and go cut the lawn or go shovel the snow or, you know, clean the house, whatever it might be. I think that the only way for me that works is I outsource a lot of that. And then to manage my calendar effectively in the firm is just prioritization. We pulled out phones last night, and I was showing my calendar, and it's triple booked, like every hour. So you have to be very clear and prioritize and communicate very effectively with the folks that you're not going to be there. You know, you basically have to say, I got these 3 meetings. You reach out to all of them on Link or OC, you connect with them and say, who's got the highest priority, and that's where you go. That works for me. One more. Yep. Yeah, always be available. I mean, specifically, like, you talk about disconnecting and then always be available, I contradict myself. But when my key network reaches out to me, I mean, I go after that with tremendous speed and force, like, to get the answer back to them because I know that's going to come back to me, right? And when my client has an issue that I can't answer, and I say, hey, it's Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, I got to call a meeting in LA, I need you there, right? Because you're really good at this, and you remember all those nice things I did for you. We don't even have to say that because we already have the relationship. But they're there. They jump on the plane, they go, right? At least in our firm, that's the way it works. So it's just speed, accuracy, and just brute force. All right, I'm done. All right, I'm out. Thanks.